All right. So welcome to the August 28th. Whoop, that should say 28th. Oh, I hope I have the right one up. We might have to restart. Welcome to the 28th update. Just to get started, we'll go around. Well, first of all, to get started, we will acknowledge the land on which we are sat. We start by acknowledging the land as a reminder that the land was here before we were and will be here long after we are, and we only exist here at all because of the land. We were raised up by it to be here. And so we want to stay mindful of that in all the work that we do. And we are also grateful to the WSÁNEĆ and the other indigenous cultures of the world who have kept this knowledge alive and are sharing it with us as we move through these perilous times. So deep gratitude to our closest neighbors, the WSÁNEĆ, and to all of the indigenous cultures who have been so generous with sharing this wisdom with us. So with that, we always start by going around and giving everybody a chance to talk about what parts of the lifeboat are you most interested in, curious about. And today's circle is going to be Roland, Jen, Ronnie, and me. So Roland, over to you.
Gosh, okay, so there's always so much that's interesting about the Lifeboat Academy. I think today I'm most curious about how to integrate the Lifeboat Academy in how I'm living on the planet. And with that, I pass it over to who is the next person? Sorry. Jen.
That would be me. Hello.
You had a choice of two.
I am most curious today about the Lifeboat Network and how we really are all in this together. So over to Ron.
I'm curious about how the Lifeboat Academy and the Regenerate Cascadia project are going to integrate. We're doing a lot of similar work in the bioregion, and I'm really excited and curious to see how that unfolds and how people can become more connected and aligned. Back to you, Ben.
So you stole mine because I think it's the Regenerate Cascadia project, but along with that is, I don't know if this is curiosity. I guess it is curiosity. There just seems to be this kind of confluence of energy happening, and the good energy seems to be building on good energy, and I'm really curious to see where it goes. And well, and like we say often, how do we weave together our strengths in such a way that our weaknesses become irrelevant? And how do we weave that lifeboat network that way? And just excited to see what can come from that. So the reason we're here right now is to give you an update on the Lifeboat Academy. And it is always helpful to start with what do we mean by the Lifeboat Academy anyway? What we are trying to do here is to create a replicable, shareable model of resilience and regeneration at the person, place, and community level. A lifeboat for us, it means a personal, place-based resilient network, where a resilience network where you can lean into the strengths of the people who are already in your life and reach out to other people who can complement and grow our overall community resilience in the face of whatever might be coming our way. And the Lifeboat Network is, how do we keep each of those little lifeboats connected so that we can share our resources, our knowledge, our experience, and our expertise in ways that benefit the whole. So that's what we're all about. And here's what we've been up to. This is a little bit out of order, but over to you, Ronnie.
So I had pulled up a an outdated version of this. All of our blurbs about our different offerings have gone out on a variety of channels. Our email list is up to nearly 700, so close to 700 people have received all of those different blurbs, in addition to lots of posts on Instagram and Facebook and Mastodon and Facebook groups. So that's all very exciting. We've sent out round one of letters of intent to purchase shares, and we've gotten a few signed so far, and we're still waiting on some others to come back. And as more folks have been demonstrating interest in investing, we have another round of letters to send out sometime soon. We met with Tomas Simon, who has been working on finding a way to provide education online around climate and collapse and resilience building and things like that. So we met with him as a potential small team or a person who wants to start a small team. And yeah, ready for what's next. So we're continuing to send out requests for support. We're sending out specifically requests for letters of support from individuals who are connected to different organizations. Most of these we're already in relationship with. It's just a matter of getting it on paper that they want to support our project. So if you're watching this and you'd love to write a letter of support, that would be awesome. Feel free to reach out to us. We're going to continue following up on that and letters of intent for investing, and just seeing how many letters we can gather, so that we can share out. This is where we are. This is the support that we have, and it's just a really exciting process to start really getting everything together. So yeah.
Well, then I think then let's talk about some of the results of the outreach that we've been doing. All of the numbers are tentative because the conditions are changing really quickly, which is nice and exciting, but it also means it can be a bit of a challenge to kind of keep accurate. But right now, we have 12 big investors who are interested, and these are people who could be buying a half a footprint or more. And so we have 12 that we have in our category of 12 big investors. And we think that probably represents something around 10 footprints, 10 out of the 16. Again, everything's tentative, and there's a number of details for us to work out. But still, that's 10/16ths of the way potentially towards our fundraising goal. In addition, we have 14 small investors who are either a small number of shares of social investors or timeshare cropper interest. So that probably represents another 25 shares or so. And in addition to that, we are in conversations with probably, again, it's hard to put the actual number, but I'm going to say 6 institutional partners who represent either bioregional, global, or national networks, or provincial. We also have some partners who are specifically BC oriented, who are actively working with us, and also several of whom are willing to host sort of fundraising events where we might go and talk to people about what would it mean to be a timeshare cropper at the Lifeboat Academy, or a social investor. We have a number of those opportunities coming up. So that's all very exciting. We've had a wide number, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. We have 13 mentors or lifeboat builders, people who have expressed interest in either being a mentor or a lifeboat builder. And we also have probably now a full roster of farmer caretakers. we're actually starting to think about what do we need to do to provide more space, or how do we make some selections, which is kind of a good problem to have. In addition, so though that's the results that where we are at now. The other thing too, that those we're also refining our system so that we can get better at being able to update the results, getting more clarity on the actual numbers. So hopefully as we move forward, we will be able to provide something like a thermometer where we can actually start to show increases. Actually, that's one, I think, of the 12 big investors, I think 4 are people that we have only had contact with in the last month or so. That's also exciting that we are increasing our numbers of potential large investors. And we have at least 3 people who are connected with investment networks, and or fundraising channels that we will be. We've been doing so much of the groundwork in the original outreach that, now it's time to turn to these sort of more special relationships, and to put a little bit more energy there. And everything's done also in the spirit of we're working with probabilities. We know not all of these leads lead to anything, and that's okay. Anyhow, we also met with Coho, who are our realtors, and with the fundraising and finance circle, in part because we've got this August 31st deadline. And the short form is we are meeting with Stephanie and her realtor and our realtors tomorrow. And we're going to talk about ways that we can make it work. Our feeling is we are 100% confident that we can make this fundraising happen. We're not at all confident about the timeline by November 30th. It's still a possibility. It's still in the realm of reality, but there are a number of unknowns between here and there. And actually we'll be presenting a lot of this information to Stephanie tomorrow, and just kind of letting her know, here, cards on the table, this is where we're at. And then just figure out what we can do to adjust the timeline. And so there's risk involved in that, and there's also opportunity. So I think that's it for the purchase. Really relevant to the purchase is the work that we are starting to do with Regenerate Cascadia. I attended a sort of a dress rehearsal of the introduction session to the project. That's going to be something that will be repeated, I believe, weekly, on Thursday at 7 Pacific or 6 Pacific. I can get the details if anybody is interested in attending. But they are ongoing introduction sessions to pull people into the Regenerate Cascadia project. And I think the short form is there is near perfect alignment between what they're doing as well, I guess what we are doing as part of the Regenerate Cascadia project, and what we have in mind with the Lifeboat Academy. And as part of that, it's not just us thinking that, it's also them thinking that. So I've been invited onto what they call the core scaffolding circle. And that's where we will work out a lot of the details about the project. In broad strokes, the idea is that Joe Brewer and company will be doing a tour of the Cascadia region, coming into Seattle, going as far south as Eugene, going as far north as, I guess, Vancouver, including Gulf Island stops. So we will be one of the stops on the tour. At each of those events, there will be a local organizing, an activation team, who will be organizing, basically inviting people who might be interested in bioregionalism, climate activism, regenerative, both agriculture and culture, and trying to create new opportunities for those nodes to come together, and then keep them linked through a summit that would happen in November online, and but then with on the ground projects coming out of that summit. So we're really excited about the possibilities, and that also means in terms of fundraising, October is going to be a really big month for us because we're going to have an opportunity to kind of be front and center with exactly the people that we want to be networking with as lifeboat builders, and the people who are interested in investing in that. So the next steps are, we had a little bit of a meeting yesterday and we talked through what some of the possibilities were and how we saw the overlap happening. So I'm going to be writing up some suggestions and sending them into Claire and Brandon. And then we were thinking about figuring out who to invite to our Lifeboat webinar, because it seems relevant that everyone should kind of have we're not going to do the full webinar, but basically here's how we think we're working, and so that we can kind of figure out where the overlap is. So back to Ronnie for podcasts and presentations.
So we've been working on a podcast plan, actually 2 potential podcast plans with Andy Wildman, who we met through Earth Regenerators. And we were going to record last week, and we decided to move our first recording to this Wednesday. And Jen set up a really lovely buffered recording space for us here on the farm, where we'll hopefully be able to record without too much background fuzziness. And we also have, there are several folks from Earth Regenerators who are interested in being on a podcast. And there's 2 different podcasts we're working on, and I won't get too much into it right now. But one of them is focused on Andy building his lifeboat in Tasmania, and the other is talking to folks who are working on different regenerative projects and doing some shared learning with them. So all very exciting, and looking forward to seeing how that all unfolds. We're also nearing a final version of our property map, which is a really beautiful, well-designed, fun map that our friend Kelly has designed, and Ben and Roman have been working with her on that for quite a while, and it's really looking awesome. And it has all the different parts of the farm, and there's these call outs about, you know, different potential projects and fun aspects about the property and the land and potentials, and it's just a really great thing that will hopefully be able to blow up really big and have posted on the farm. So when people come to visit, it's like you arrive at a national park, or you arrive at a summer camp, and there's this really gorgeous, fun map. So that's really exciting too. Back to you, Ben. Oh, not back to you. Sorry. Oh yeah, I mentioned our first recording session on Wednesday. Who's doing farm stuff?
I'm going to take over now.
Okay.
The farm, the gardens are looking good. There's more vegetables that have been planted. We just had another woofing experience, and thank you very much, Jessica. Hopefully you'll log on and see this. A great big thank you to you and all that you did. While we're not moving the chicken house, we are moving their chicken pasture, so their area has been shifted, and they've got some fresh forage, and we have received the visit of 2 fantastic people who are potential farmer caretakers, who came to spend the afternoon walking around and talking, and I'm very grateful for the energizing influence that has had, because of had the synergy between our ideas. So thanks for that. And back to Ben.
Well, thanks for covering, because I couldn't get my mute button off. Anyhow, I think I'm having a little problem with my mouse. So this week, the big event is going to be meeting with Steph and the realtors and talking about what opportunities, timelines might look like. And then we'll also just keep on keeping on with the CRM. We've been having, I'm going to say, on the order of average 2 or 3 contacts a day. So there has been a steady and a lot of those contacts are coming through contacts. So it's really interesting. We'll have a conversation with one person and they'll send us 2 or 3 more names to follow with. So we're just going to, keep on keeping on with the CRM, keep on sort of tidying things up and then responding to the interest that's already there. So we've got a couple meetings scheduled this week with potential lifeboat builders or mentors just to talk through what next steps might look like. Actually, we've got another meeting with Tomas, and that's following up on that first conversation. So he's interested enough that we're going to talk about what support might look like with his project, which is really exciting. And then keep on keeping on with the Regenerate Cascadia work again. So responding to these particular opportunities. So we went a little bit long today, but I guess we had a lot of numbers to report as well. And the one thing I also wanted to mention, yay, and Jen's back. The one thing I also we were noting as we were cleaning up our CRM that we have a truly global reach. So we have a whole wackadoo of our neighbors who are interested in this and supporting it in various ways, and a lot of local organizations. But we have interest from Switzerland. Andy, who's a good partner, is in Tasmania. We have people in we have Ireland, South America. There are people who are interested in what we're doing. California, some of our partners are in California, Idaho, other parts of the world, Wisconsin. So anyhow, it's really gratifying to know that it's just interesting to look at our contact list, and we have to start our meetings by saying, so what day is it where you are now? Which is a really fun issue. Anyhow, so we also want to share contact information. You can get in touch with us at friends at the Lifeboat Academy. Easy email, easy way of doing it. We're still working on the web page, but right now you can go to lifeboat.academy for a basic splash page. And of course, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Mastodon, and TikTok by searching Lifeboat Academy. And let's do one more round just for sort of final thoughts. And do we want to do some questions also? So once more round, and I think the order has changed, but it's still Roland, Jen, Ronnie, me. So Roland, over to you.
I'm really excited about what we were able to provide in our update this week. Once this is uploaded to YouTube, I will likely want to send it to specific people. So you can look forward to that. And if you're receiving it in your email, it's because I was thinking of you specifically. Over to Jen, I think.
Yes, I am thinking of all of you too. Ben mentioned people from all around the world now. And of course, there's all of you that have been watching and listening and keeping up with us. And we'd love to know your comments and questions. So you can use the space below to do that. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, give us a thumbs up and share this video so we can really continue to expand the reach.
Yeah, good stuff. Ditto everything that's been said. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this week unfolds and the rest of this year. I think it's going to be really exciting, and there does seem to be just more and more people we're talking to. We're really thinking and feeling on the same pages. So please watch these updates, stay in the loop, send us your questions. You could either comment your questions on YouTube, like Jen said. You can also just email us, or if you're close to any of us, send us a text with a question. However you want to do it, we're happy to get your questions. We're really aiming to be as transparent and open as possible about everything that's going on. And we also talk to a lot of people, so we really value folks reaching out and letting us know what you care about. and what you're thinking about. Back to you, Ben.
Were you going to tell me I was muted? So I was saying, yeah, we do value the questions because we know if you have a question, then other people do too. And so by sharing your questions with us, it gives us an opportunity to be able to make sure that the answers are out there and people and more people know. So what I thought we could do is just take a few minutes and answer some of the questions we've already answered to the people in person. But since the questions are coming in, it's worth some time. And I'm just going to do a little cherry picking and just trying to arrange my screen here so I can see multiple things. So I think the first question I want to cover is the insurance policy still a thing? And so the insurance policy is an idea that we've had for quite a while that right now we're developing the capacity of the farm, and we're really thinking of it as an experiment, and it's sort of an experiment and learning station. But we recognize as things get more bumpy, more people might be looking for a housing alternative and want to come and actually live here on the property. And so we've had this idea that at some point you can kind of cash in your insurance policy. And if you have 100 shares, which is a full footprint, then you could come and live here on the property. The short answer is yes, we are still thinking the insurance policy is a thing. So one of the things, if you are thinking about where you might end up, you might want to think about investing in 100 shares per person. I know it's a lot of money, but it's also it's buying back your footprint and the natural resources that would be yours in perpetuity. And so, yes, we're still thinking the insurance policy is a thing. It is somewhat complicated because it does depend on us being able to develop the capacity first, because we don't currently have capacity for 16 people to live around here. But that's one of the primary goals, is to develop that capacity. And as we develop it, it becomes available to insurance policy holders. So that's the answer to that first question. Another question is, how do our values affect our day-to-day work? How do our values show up in the work that we do? Anyone want to take this one? I can definitely take it, but I'm curious what other people's answers are.
I'll take a stab. That's violent. I'm not going to frame it that way. I will give it a go. So there are a few different ways that we weave our values into what we do, and one of them is that some of our values are the principles of sociocracy, which are things like consent, empiricism, equivalence, accountability. And because we use sociocracy to govern ourselves and organize everything that we do on the farm, the principles come up fairly often. And they often come up when maybe there's a tension or something isn't going, well, the way that we thought it would. And it's like, oh, let's look at the principles and see, are we holding ourselves accountable to these principles? So that's one way that we, in very practical ways, live out our values. And we also we are often talking about things that are going on in the world and things, and sort of thinking about ways that we're organizing ourselves and the ways that we're being inclusive, and really reflecting on how we're doing things in relation to the dominant culture. So recognizing when we might be doing something in a way that is more hierarchical or more patriarchal or less transparent, and thinking about, okay, how can we, gently make a shift into acting in a way where we're creating the culture that we want to be embodying as an organization, as a group of people, and as a farm. So we have lots of regular conversations about what our values are and the world that we want to be creating, and work really hard, all of us, to put that into practice. So it's not a lip surface kind of place. It's very much a reflective place, and we hold ourselves and each other accountable to our values on a regular basis. If anyone else wants to add anything.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. It's also there's a structure to the day. So these conversations can happen randomly, but we also have created space. So every morning we actually gather, and this is optional, but we tend to all do it. We gather to do a little grounding, and then sharing about how we want to be together, how we want to be during the day, because we recognize that what's happening now is perforce transforming everything, and it requires personal transformation. So to whatever degree that per individual, and it's, we don't have a program, so it's per individual, to whatever degree people are comfortable and want to share and participate, then we end up all learning from each other, and we end up being able to be there to support each other in whichever we were capable of it at any given moment. So there's so much more that I could say, but I'm going to keep it just to that. So over to whoever would like to add anything.
Jen, you want to give it a go?
Yeah, one thing I can add too is everyone really holds themselves a really authentic place in that, and also being able to appreciate our differences. We also often refer to the parable about the blind people touching the elephant, not knowing that they are touching an elephant. Each one has a different perception of what they're actually touching or feeling into. And that's the way that we get to appreciate our difference, not just tolerate, but really lean into those different viewpoints and perspectives and expand on each other's strengths so that our weaknesses become irrelevant. And yeah, so I really appreciate that as being part of our values as well, and not just having values, but actually living them. So that's what I refer to when I say that we're walking in integrity.
I don't really have anything to add. I think that was all brilliant. Oops. Trying to juggle too many screens. Here's a really simple one. Do shares include any ownership of the actual land? Yes. Basically, that's the heart of the share, is that you are owning a physical property together. The simplest way of thinking about it is if you and a couple other friends went together to buy a farm that you were going to work together, and you just had it divided up into, the different percentages that each person was going to own on the farm. The shares work just like that. And are the shares resellable and refundable? Yes. That once you own a share, you can resell the share to someone else. There are some restrictions on that. We want to make sure that we want to make sure that people aren't profiteering. And we also want to make sure that people who are coming in are fully aware of that shares come with rights and obligations. So there are some restrictions, but they are resellable, and they are potentially refundable, but depending on the cash reserves of the organization at the time. So we have the ability, it's written into our articles of incorporation that we can, as an organization, buy back shares. But that's only, of course, possible if there's money in the bank to be able to do it. And I think that's probably good enough for now. We have some other questions that we can cover, and just a reminder, everyone is invited to this. We put this out on our social media channels, the link to this conversation every week on Monday, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. So if you want, you can actually attend in person and share any observations or ask any questions that you might have. So we're more than happy to have that. And I believe that's probably good enough for this week. So I'll just put up our contact information again to leave you with that. And until next week, I guess, bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.